Number 7. Michael Lawson. In 2018, 29-year-old Sarah Bramley broke up with her partner David Saunders and started dating someone new. Despite their relationship being over, Bramley reveled in the attention of both men and continued contact with Saunders in what can only be described as a love-hate relationship, with messages exchanged between them ranging from caring to downright personal abuse. Eventually, the toxic communication was taken too far when on July the 1st, after hours of furious texting, Bramley sent an explicit photo of her and her new lover, Michael Lawson, to Saunders. Scared that he would be enraged by the photo and come find her, Bramley then forced Lawson onto the street and locked herself in her home. The event unfolded as she'd expected, and Saunders had immediately grabbed a taxi to their location and went after Lawson. After a short chase, he killed him in cold blood with a single stab wound straight to his heart. Saunders was caught and pled guilty to murder. While he was sentenced to 22.5 years in prison, for his part, the court considered that Bramley had also played a role in the violent crime. On top of initiating an act she knew would enrage Saunders, as well as locking Lawson out, the court heard how she egged Saunders on by saying, "Feel free to smack him," after sending him an explicit photo. Bramley pleaded guilty to inciting or assisting in the murder of Michael Lawson and was given 4 months in jail. Number 6. Sean Dyson and Lucy Ann Rushton. Mother of 5 Lucy Ann Rushton was murdered by her husband Sean Dyson in June of 2019 after the man went into a jealous rage. Together for 4 years before getting married in 2010, the couple had recently split, with Rushton trying to finally put behind her what had been a toxic and violent relationship. The downward spiral of events started late in the evening on June the 22nd, when Rushton received a phone call from an ex-lover, which enraged Dyson. A child in the home at the time reported that Dyson told Rushton to swallow her ring because they were no longer together, and was woken up in the middle of the night to the sound of him beating her. The brutal and prolonged attack consisted of Dyson stomping, kicking and jumping on Rushton as she lay defenseless and half naked on her back. After calling the police in the early hours of June the 23rd, he disappeared for the next 10 hours and let paramedics find her lifeless body on the bed in her home in Hampshire, UK. Dyson went on to message police, family and friends to say that she died of drowning after he'd thrown water on her, but an autopsy revealed Rushton had a broken sternum, 2 collapsed lungs, and 37 fractures on her ribs. He was found later hiding in a cupboard and was charged with her murder. 2 weeks into his trial, he admitted guilt and was sentenced to a minimum of 17 years behind bars. Number 5. Keith Rizzo and Naomi Smith. Described as jealous and possessive by the judge presiding over his trial, 23-year-old Keith Rizzo was sentenced to 22 years in jail for brutally murdering his girlfriend, Naomi Smith, who had danced with another man at a pub night out. When the pair had started dating in early 2019, Rizzo already had a domestic violence conviction from an ex and continued down the same path with Smith, according to reports. A week before her murder, she confessed to a friend that he had choked her until she passed out and that he had broken and thrown things at her in the past. The night of the murder, a group of friends, including the couple, had gone down to a pub. Eyewitness reports stated that the night turned sour when Rizzo smashed a table worth of glasses and stormed out after spotting Smith dancing briefly with another man. Assuring a friend there that she'd be safe to go home, she went back to their shared apartment alone, only for Rizzo to show up later and break down the door. He played out his horrific attack with 2 knives, which he used to stab her 32 times, along with choking her and inflicting dozens of blows. The crime scene was described by paramedics like a horror film had taken place, as the carnage covered the entire kitchen. Immediately, Rizzo claimed 2 mysterious men had broken in and killed Smith over owed money while he was in the shower. The defense was questionable at best. CCTV failed to show anyone matching their description entering the building, and a number of women came forward to give evidence of his abusive behavior. Even a month after his conviction, a member of his defense team claimed that he still does not accept playing any part in her murder. Number 4. Sammy Lee Lunn. A disturbing love triangle between a mother, her ex, and her daughter led to a gruesome murder in Swansea, South Wales, in 2019. After he was released from prison in 2015 for previously stabbing someone, Jason Farrell and Sarah Ludwig started an on-again, off-again relationship that ultimately didn't last. Unwilling to leave the family, the 49-year-old man began seeing Sarah's daughter, Sammy Lee, whom Farrell had known since she was a young schoolgirl. Despite seemingly having moved on with her younger counterpart, when Sarah got a new partner, Farrell spiraled into a jealous rage and attacked the man with a wooden pole. His rage unquenched by the attack, he then turned on 22-year-old Sammy Lee. He tied her up in his flat and proceeded to stab her face, throat, and chest 22 times. Before fleeing the scene, she died just 20 to 30 minutes before paramedics arrived to find her mutilated body covered by a duvet. Arrested later by armed police, Farrell asked for a pen and paper in which he chillingly confessed to having sliced her up. Even though he'd given a signed confession corroborated by physical evidence at his trial, Farrell pleaded not guilty on the basis that he'd been desensitized to violence after spending years in prison. The defense swayed neither the judge nor the jury, and Farrell was given a life sentence with a minimum of 26 years behind bars. Number 3. Carrie Farver and Shanna Golia. In 2012, Dave Cooper moved to Omaha, Nebraska for work and started casually dating Shanna Liz Golia, whom he'd met online. After leaving a long-term relationship prior to his move, he made it clear he didn't want to be exclusive, which wasn't an issue until 6 months later when he met Carrie Farver. The two got along really well, but mutually decided to keep it casual until only a few weeks down the line, Cooper received a breakup text from her number. She was reported missing a few days later by her mother, after last seen leaving his house by Golia. The case went cold, but to everyone's surprise, her Facebook page was still active. For the next 4 years, Cooper would be continuously harassed by Farver, receiving 60-plus texts and 100-plus emails a day, despite him changing his number multiple times. Golia, who he'd continued to see on occasion, also received messages, as well as Farver's mother and his ex, but still, no one had seen or even heard her voice. Threatening messages turned to vandalism when Cooper's work was targeted and Golia's house was burned down, killing her family pets. Golia had told police she suspected it was Farver, but the case remained cold until 2015, when a new team of investigators volunteered to take it on. Their investigation and intuition soon pointed them to Golia, and using IP addresses and cell phone data, they discovered she had upwards of 30 fake emails using Farver's name and had a messaging app that allowed her to schedule future texts. The amount was shocking, with Golia likely spending 40 to 50 hours a week impersonating Farver and stalking her contacts. In the end, despite graphic detailing of the murder by Golia pretending to be someone else over email, no body nor any murder weapon was ever discovered. Golia was still found guilty of first-degree murder and was sentenced to life in prison in 2017, 5 years after it all began. Today's topic was requested by Carolina 2001. If you have any other topics you'd like to learn about, subscribe and let us know in the comments section below. Number 2. Angelique Sutton. In 2015, 24-year-old Ashley Wade wanted a child so badly that she contrived a fake pregnancy and committed to convincing friends, family, and her boyfriend. Posting about it to social media, she reconnected with her former friend, Angelique Sutton, who was also pregnant at the time. They bonded over their pregnancies, and Wade invited Sutton over on November the 20th to give her a gift for her wedding, which was later that day. But the seemingly innocent invitation was actually a ruse, as Wade was jealous of Sutton's baby and wanted it for herself. Upon her arrival, Wade attacked Sutton, slashing her larynx so she couldn't scream before stabbing her face and neck upwards of 50 times. Keeping the injuries from the neck up, Wade then went for her abdomen and cut her baby out using a paring knife. Once in her arms, she wrapped it up, fed it formula, and pretended as though she had just given birth. Sutton bled out and Wade was immediately caught. In statements made by Wade in the aftermath, she claimed to truly believe that the baby once in her arms was hers and that she'd rescued it after her own imagined baby had died. The calculated attack by Wade and precise extraction kept baby Genesis alive. In a trial that lasted almost 2 weeks, she was convicted of second-degree murder and kidnapping and received a 40-year sentence. Number 1. Jonathan Amarillo. Suspecting his wife Brittany of having an affair, After going through her phone in September of 2020, Armando Barron from New Hampshire, US, went on a jealous rampage. First choking out his wife until she passed out, he proceeded to lure her suspected lover, Jonathan Amarillo, to a park, where he violently attacked him. Barron forced his wife to cut his wrists before fatally shooting him in the back of his car. Amarillo's body was then taken to a campsite, where Barron allegedly forced his wife at gunpoint to decapitate the body before wrapping it in a tarp and hiding it. Amarillo's body and Brittany were found together at the campsite by police when both failed to show up at work. Working with police, Brittany, her face covered with bruises, confessed to the gruesome chain of events. Armando was charged with capital murder and kidnapping, which carried a life sentence without parole, while his wife was indicted on 3 counts of falsifying physical evidence. Thanks for watching. Would you rather have an extremely jealous partner or have to wear perpetually wet socks for 5 years? Let us know in the comments section below.